Hey, everybody, how you doing? Well, that's good. Welcome to PHLY Flyers. My name is Bill Matz. I'm your director of fun and games for the afternoon. Joining me today is Philadelphia's #1 hockey beat reporter. It is Charlie O'Connor. What's going on today, Chuck? Happy Monday.
Is it really ever Happy Monday?
I don't know. I'm just happy I can hold my neck straight up again. I went to Green Day on Friday, and it turns out, man, at like 35, 36, you just can't headbang like you used to. Like, I was in serious physical pain all weekend. I was like, this is not good. Like, I might have to go to a doctor, which I don't believe in doing. But every now and then my wife forces me.
Right.
It was scary. I was like, no, is this part of my life just over now? Maybe. It might be.
I will never allow that to happen to me. That said, I would think if we're talking about bands that inspire the highest headbangs per 60, I would think Green Day's pretty high up on the list.
It was, yeah, I mean, like, you probably just shouldn't do it for like 2 straight hours. But my father-in-law's best friend had a suite.
Ooh,
I was like,
nice.
oh, so like booze? He's like, yeah, booze is included. I was like, yeah, I think I'll be able to join you. It was like a very last minute thing, and we ended up going, and it was an awesome freaking time.
Hell yeah.
But yeah, that's how I spent my weekend recovering from that on Friday. We have another player review of Charlie's to get into today. He did his season review for Owen Tippett. You published that Friday, I think?
Yes, Friday.
So the diehards had plenty of time to read it. I always like go back and forth. Like, should we be giving away the Die Hard stuff? And in the season, no. But on August 12th, yeah, man, you had the whole weekend to read this thing. So Die Hards, you got your money's worth, and now we're going to share parts of it.
Yeah, and there's still going to be a lot more in the article that we're not going to talk about.
Of course, yeah.
It's talking about 3,000
This is thousands of words, and we only have 58 more minutes to get into it. We have some other stuff, too. Other stuff like, what the fuck was that flyover? I had to go drop something off to my wife first. I was going up to like 24th and Market to give something to her. And I'm on my way there, stuck in traffic. All of a sudden, there is like a group of jets flying through the skyline.
Sure was.
And I was getting ready to fucking bail.
Yeah.
I was like, I am out of here. But then they spray the red, white, and green like smoke out of the back, I guess, for Italy.
It's Italy. It is the Italian Air Force.
What the hell? What was going on?
So here's the thing. It's cool. It's neat that they were trailing the smoke for the flag. I have Italian heritage, so like, cool. I live in South Philly, so like, tons of people with Italian heritage.
Everyone took off work today. It's a holiday.
Losing their shit. However, I still don't think I've got an adequate explanation for why. I feel like Ryan Reynolds in the operating room and Harold and Kumar. But why? Why is Italy sending their Air Force all around North America to do flyovers? Is it a show of power?
Did they just clean up at the Olympics or something?
What? I just don't understand. Not that I have a problem with it. Like, cool. It's neat, I guess. It was pretty cool. But also, why? No one has given me a satisfactory answer.
Is there like an air show or something coming?
I don't know.
I was just very confused.
Yeah, I'm not mad. I'm just confused.
I was like, I don't know, man. I get nervous about things like that just happening on a random weekday in the middle of the afternoon. But here we are. Everything's okay. I guess it was just an exhibition of some kind.
Again, cool. That's neat. I don't understand, because there have been times in history. I'm a history major. There have been times in history where countries who are trying to basically nicely but not so nicely flex their muscle, they'll send the fleet to do a tour, and it's like, yeah, this is a goodwill tour, but also look at all the friggin' big boats we have and with guns. If you fuck with us, we will fuck with you back.
Yeah. I
don't think Italy is trying to declare pseudo war on North America, so I just don't know why.
It would be surprising, but it is 2024. Anything, I suppose, is possible.
Yeah, whatever.
Anyway, so let's get into it. I was just very confused.
It's a little weird.
Very confused on my way to work today. Owen Tippett coming off a 28-goal season. signs the contract extension in January while out. I forgot that was part of
he was injured.
The timing of it was during the little period he missed with an injury there. The thing I'll always associate with Owen Tippett first is, wow, blind squirrel. Chuck Fletcher's best work. The Giroux trade, they still haven't used the first. They
kicked the can down the road.
They kicked the can. Yeah. They traded 32nd overall from Florida this year to Edmonton. They have now Edmonton's first round pick next year. So that will eventually be the pick that they got for Claude Giroux. The third round pick they used on Denver Barkey looks like a hell of a selection.
It does, yeah.
Third round pick, and this dude looks like he might be in the NHL one day. That's a great pick.
You're getting an NHL player out of a third round pick. And
awesome.
It's not a guarantee. Barkey is still very small. Those guys don't always pan out. But so far,
his trajectory
looking like a solid pick. The trajectory is pretty good.
And the player they got for Claude Giroux, who was Giroux, Bunneman, and who was the third guy?
Oh, God.
Was it Rubtsov?
It would have been Rubtsov, I think.
I think
they finally moved Rubtsov in that deal.
Trade.
They were just clearing out contracts.
Yeah, they had to make room.
Yeah.
Owen Tippett comes in and he's finally going to get a shot here, gets that brief look at the end of the season.
Looked good.
I remember
he couldn't finish, but he looked good.
He created so many scoring chances.
By the eye test, he looked good aside from the fact that none of his shots were going.
None of them went in. It was like, man, but I do remember thinking a similar thing about Oscar Lindblom. It was just like, this dude is always in the right place.
Right.
If he just figures out something and gets a little bit of luck, he'll score one day, and that happened with Oscar Lindblom.
Very next year,
then
goals.
That look turned into some really bad luck, but it happened. And with Owen Tippett, that happened as well.
Right.
Has the 27-goal season. You go, damn, there's something here, and I wasn't here for it. But you did that interview with JJ before last year, and it was like, yeah,
JJ was bullish on Owen.
Like really, really optimistic.
Yeah.
Like I think this guy could have a 40-goal season, and certainly the tools are there. You look at the skating, you look at the shooting. Ability to create high danger chances. He's good at all that. But after a 27-goal, 49-point season, he has a 28-goal, 53-point season. Basically the exact same year. What should now, before we get into all the other stuff in your season review, again, hefty, we're going to get into a lot of it. What should the expectation now be? Because this is now year one of that 8-year extension. I believe he counts more against the cap this coming season than he's made in the complete parts of 5 seasons he's played in the NHL prior to this. What should we actually be expecting from this guy now that he's going to turn 26 in the season, has firmly established himself as
a quality NHL scorer,
top 6 NHL scorer?
Yeah, he's a top sixer.
He's a top sixer without a doubt. What should we expect?
To me, I think there's a distinction here between expectation and reasonable hope, because I think there's a difference. For example, if I were to say that, well, Ryan Poehling, I guess in theory, could score 70 points next year. Look, anything can happen. But it's not a reasonable hope. It is a, man, that would be incredible. And weird things happen. William Karlsson comes out of nowhere. Your Chandler Stevenson, guys who are look like fourth liners, sometimes explode in their mid-20s. And you're like, wow, I didn't see that coming. But it's not a reasonable hope to look at Ryan Poehling and say, man, he could score 70. He could score 80. Highly unlikely. Owen Tippett, I think the expectation should be he's 25 years old. The most likely scenario is this is more or less who he is. He's more or less a 30-ish goal, 50-ish point a year guy. That is the reasonable expectation. But I think it is also reasonable to hope, and it is a legitimate possibility that he could take another step forward. Yes, he's a little on the older side for guys that take big steps forward, but it happens. Guys in their mid-20s do sometimes go from being good to great. A perfect example is Sam Reiner. Sam Reiner was a good player for Buffalo. Perfectly fine. He justifiably got a solid return when Florida traded for him the same summer that the Flyers traded for Rasmus Ristolainen from the same team. Good job, Chuck. Picked the right player from Buffalo there.
If we have to point out the good, I guess we need to point out the bad.
But Sam Reiner was a good player for Buffalo. He didn't become a great player until he got to Florida. Now, part of that was the environment, to be sure. Part of that was I think he just became a better player, and that happened in his mid-20s. it can happen. And I think it is reasonable to hope that Owen Tippett has another gear. But I think the fair expectation is that this is most likely, and again, we're talking about like pluralities here. I wouldn't say that it's like, well, there's a 70% chance this is who Owen Tippett is. But if you're looking at plausible outcomes, I think the highest percentage is this is who Owen Tippett is. I just think there is good reason to think he might have more.
And like, again, you look at the tools, and I just wanted to look at Sam Reiner because I think that is such a great comparison with Buffalo. His last 4 years there, age 22, 25 goals, 50 points. Age 23, 22 goals, 65 points. 24, 22 goals, 50 points. Age 25, 25 goals, 40 points. Basically the same season a whole bunch of times in a row.
Right.
Little variance there in terms of assists, but then he gets to Florida. 33 goals, 82 points, 31 goals, 67 points, 57 goals, 94 points. Now,
he went from being a good player to a great player at age 26, 27, 28.
That one insane season of 57, who the hell knows? Because that's so many things have to come together, you know, in terms of what you have to do. He scored 27 power play goals. The Flyers didn't score 27 power play goals.
They might not have.
They really might not have. Honestly,
they really might not have.
Like, he might have had more than the whole team. Like, you look at it and just, that's going to be the running thing through this is like Owen Tippett has a possibility to break out numbers-wise without actually getting any better.
Exactly.
It's just like, score in the fucking power. Someone has to score in the power play, and they are going to look like, oh my god, they took this huge jump. And it's literally like,
did they though?
Did they?
Or did Michkov just show up and the power play coach finally figured out a modicum of a decent strategy?
2 defenders got hypnotized by Michkov, and then all of a sudden Tippett's on the back door wide open for 7 tip-ins this year, and suddenly he looks like, oh man, he's a 35 goal scorer. Like. That possibility exists.
It sure does.
But you looked at so many other little things in his game that I really want to get to. And it's, first of all, the contract value is something I want to talk about. Okay. Because this is, I have said many times, like, okay, I need to see Danny win a negotiation.
Right.
And I don't know if he has quite yet. Like, listen, the Konechny contract is better than I expected, but you use the Sam Reiner comparison. It's like, oh, well. But obviously,
special circumstances for multiple reasons.
Much different circumstances. Best player on a rebuilding team versus guy who wants to stay on cup contender in tax-free state.
Right.
It's a little different.
A little bit.
But the contract value has this possibility. Right now, I think he's dead on. Cool. I have no problems.
And the contract models think the same. I put in the article that Evolving Hockey pegged his on-ice value last year at $6.1 million. Dom Luszczyszyn's model at The Athletic pegged his on-ice value last year at $6.6 million. He just signed a contract that's paying him $6.2 million a year by the models, and truthfully, just by the rational view of like the quality of player he is. I think that, generally speaking, when you think, oh, you see that $6.2 million cap hit and you think, oh, you're like, yeah, that just, it feels right. It passes the smell test. It feels about right for what he is as a player. Not elite, but definitely better than just decent. And that's around that low 6 range. That's around, it feels right. It feels right. But as you say, if you're going to be a cup contender, you can't just have a bunch of guys being paid what they're worth.
Yeah, like, oh, yeah, it looks about right.
Yeah.
Like, no, you need now the hope with Owen Tippett, along with really anyone that they sign to a long-term deal. Like, Konechny, you're hoping maintains. And then maybe he has a few more goals because the power play isn't garbage.
Right.
But, like, you're hoping Konechny is just Konechny for the bulk of this contract. That's what you can expect from him. But now with Tippett, it's like, man, that's the value. That's the guy with the ability to maybe have one of those. I know it didn't ultimately work out with the Stanley Cup, but man, that Wayne Simmons contract, that Sean Couturier contract, they were so good for so long. It enabled them to go out and spend that extra money on bullshit. But hopefully they could spend the money on like good players. Yeah. Like, this is a dude that you think you can get the value out of. Like, right now, upper 20s in goals, 50 points, cool. If he can get to 35 and 70, you are getting now surplus value.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why I think I like the contract as much as I do, even if right now it's not amazing. What I like about it is it does a good job of balancing risk and reward. I guess it's possible that Owen Tippett falls off a cliff or he gets hurt.
Would be surprised.
That's always possible. Injuries happen. It's a contact sport. It's a very violent sport. And guys sometimes just collapse in their late 20s. It happens. It doesn't seem likely. To me, the downside risk of this contract, the realistic downside risk, is just that Tippett doesn't get any better. It's just that this is who he is, and he is this guy until he's 32 years old. Maybe in the last couple of years of the contract, he falls off because he's in his early 30s, and that happens sometimes. That's the downside risk of this contract, that you're basically paying market value for Owen Tippett. The upside is he takes another step, which I think is possible, and then suddenly this goes from an okay contract to a really good one. Like you said, I believe I think it was last month, you said that on Puck Soup, they brought up this contract as a really good one.
Yeah.
And you were surprised because you live, as we all do, kind of in the Flyers bubble where a lot of people, especially online, think everything the Flyers did is bad because they're angry, and that's just the way it goes. But outsiders were looking at the Owen Tippett contract and saying like, oh, this guy scores well. He drives play. He's at a young age. The contract doesn't last too long. This is a legitimately really good contract. And it's interesting to hear outsiders that have no ties to the organization from a fandom standpoint or even from a location standpoint look at the Owen Tippett contract and say, that's a really good contract. I think the reason is because the downside seems limited and the upside seems very plausible. That's why I like the contract.
And just the player type he is. You look at, like, I realize 6'1", 210, like, yeah, 20 years ago, that's not a big guy. But now that's a big guy in this league. You see the size, you see the speed, the offensive upside that he already has, and then, okay, if he gets a little better, if a couple of other things in the team improve that could help him, like, there seems to be, like, a real path to this guy. I'm not going to say be a superstar, but be a legitimate first-line caliber player, and hopefully the way the team is structured, a first-line caliber player on your second line, something we've said we've needed if we're going to be a legitimate cup contender at some point in the 2020s. That looks like it's a legitimate possibility for this guy, but still, there are criticisms, and you map these out in your article, and I want to get to some of them.
Well, I think
the myths.
The reason why the myths to me are interesting to look at is because, and this is generally the case with urban legends and myths and just like things that take hold in the zeitgeist of anything. They're usually not all true, but there's usually at least a kernel of truth to it. It's just that then people take it too far because they either want to make a scene or because they just get fixated on this bad thing and turn it into a really, really bad thing. And then you have to have people come in, like myself, who are like, okay, there's something to this, but let's not go too far and exaggerate a guy's flaws. Owen Tippett is not a perfect player. If he was a perfect player, he would be a 40-goal scorer, score 90 points a year, given the amount of talent he has. Like, he is an elite skater. I believe he finished the season with the highest miles per hour of any player in hockey, the highest top speed. He is an elite straight-line skater. He has a great shot. He has the ability to absolutely wire the puck. He is big. He can fight through checks in a way that guys who aren't his size and don't have his strength can't do. He has physical tools that lead you to believe that if he were to put it all together, he could be a 40-goal-a-year guy. Now, he is not, which tells you that there are flaws in his game. But the reason why I like talking about the myths is because let's not go so far. Let's point out the flaws, but let's not bury him while pointing out the flaws.
And we're going to get into those. But first, we got to take a couple of minutes to tell you about some of our fine sponsors here at PHLY. The first of which, it is our friends at Rite Aid. And our friends at Rite Aid, well, they want to remind you that it's fall allergy season. That's right. It's just around the corner. Fall allergies. That's my rough season, man. It always sucked when I was a kid. I used to get nosebleeds, and it would be like the first couple weeks of school. Like, oh, I'm sitting here. That's cool. Gushing blood. Great. This is fun for me. So I absolutely am here, and I sympathize with all you fall allergy sufferers. And fall allergies can begin as early as August and last into November. And what causes them? Well, the main culprits are ragweed and mold, plus other allergens include plants such as sagebrush, tumbleweed, and pigweed. There's dust mites. And don't forget about your pets, dander and fur. If they have allergies, well, guess what? You might be allergic to what they're allergic to as well. We all know the different symptoms, but you want to know what you can do to get relief during allergy season. First thing you can do, super easy. Sign up for Rite Aid Rewards emails at riteaid.com/rewards to receive email pollen alerts for your area. Use a dehumidifier, something I've been doing for years. Dust mites and mold thrive in humid environments. A dehumidifier helps take the moisture out of the air so that allergens can't grow. You can pick one of those up right at your local Rite Aid. And shower frequently, damn it. This is just general good advice, honestly. If you wash the pollen and mold spores from your skin and hair, they're less likely to affect you. It's best to shower at night after you've been out all day. And keep windows closed and use an air conditioner to keep things cool at night. Use an air conditioner instead of sleeping with the windows open. I know a lot of people, maybe you want the fresh air, but if your allergies are acting up, maybe it's not the smartest thing in the world. And wear a protective mask when gardening, because allergens like to hang out in leaves and moist soil. You should wear a protective mask when you tend to your yard or garden. Wearing long sleeves and gardening gloves can protect you from the elements as well. If you need more, well, if you need more than just, okay, these are a couple home remedies, a couple of things I can do, check out the over-the-counter options available at your local Rite Aid. Try a nasal rinse to help flush out your nasal passages. And when symptoms are flaring or when you know that pollen counts are high, try antihistamines, try Claritin. You can use all these sorts of things. And 1 to 2 weeks before pollen allergies are expected to be high, you can try nasal... Oh, no, this is actually easy. Nasal corticosteroids like fluticasone and trimaclinone, all available at Rite Aid. If you have questions, still not enough relief, ask a Rite Aid pharmacist if a different type of allergy medication, like a decongestant, might be necessary. You can always ask your Rite Aid pharmacist for recommendations on ways to get relief during allergy season. And while we're here, sometimes maybe allergies are acting up, eyes a little watery. Maybe just throw on a pair of Shady Rays. Why not? You got to get ready for all seasons with quality shades built to last. Our friends at Shady Rays have you covered with premium polarized shades that won't break the bank. Shady Rays is an independent sunglasses company offering a world-class product rated 5 stars by over 300,000 people. Their shades have durable frames and crystal clear optics, making them the perfect choice for all outdoor adventures. They have hundreds of options to choose from, so you're bound to find the perfect pair to match your style. Plus, if your shades ever go missing or take an unexpected hit, don't sweat it. They have the most insane protection in all of eyewear. Every pair is backed by lost or broken replacements. And if you don't love your shades, exchange for a new pair or return worry-free within 30 days. There's no risk when you shop. Their team always has your back with personal and fast support. And exclusively for our listeners, Shady Rays is giving out their best deal of the season. Head to shadyrays.com and use code PHLY for 35% off polarized sunglasses. Try for yourself the shades rated 5 stars by over 300,000 people. shadyrays.com. Use code PHLY. All right, let's get into the myths of Owen Tippett, Charlie, and see if we can dispel them or at least come up with a...
Put them in context.
Put them in context. Because they're not all completely like crazy.
No, they're not.
It's just maybe sometimes, all right, he does this thing. Oh, he does it all the time. Well, no one does anything all the time.
Right.
Like, all right, I think 1 and 2 are very closely related. It's Owen Tippett is not a good finisher. Owen Tippett misses the net a ton. Okay. I think those two things, people kind of combine them.
And to be clear, this is something that every shooter type gets. I think back to the last time the Flyers had a volume shooter. What do we all remember about Jeff Carter? It's he missed the net, missed the net, missed the net. What gets brought up every time Jeff Carter comes up, it's Game 6, Cup final, he missed. And he is the last guy who play. I mean, Tippett, other than the fact that Tippett can't play center, he's not a center. Tippett and Carter have a lot of similarities, man. Both great skaters, both volume shooters. Like, their games they were both huge, but neither necessarily played like a power forward. They were big guys. They had the size, but they didn't play like a John LeClaire where they were or like a Wayne Simmons where they were battling in front of the net constantly. Like, Tippett has his power move to the net. Carter would do it on occasion, but they never played as big as maybe they were. Owen Tippett, we're going to start with this, isn't a good finisher. It's not that he's not a good finisher. He has a good shot. And the stat that we have up on here, which is looking at expected goals versus actual goals. Owen Tippett, if you go by where he takes shots from, and whether they're on the rush, things like that, this is the public model off of Evolving Hockey. His expected goals total over the last 2 seasons combined, 49.94, basically 50 goals over 2 years. His actual goal total is 55. That means that he scored 5 more goals than expected. If he was a bad finisher, and there are bad finishers in the NHL, he would have fewer goals than expected. He is, at the very least, a decent, slightly above average league finisher. That's fine. The problem is, and this is where the frustration comes from, is that the great goal scorers are really, really good finishers. Like, I have this chart in the article. We're not going to put it up, but if you want to read the article, you can see it. Last season, David Pastrnak finished with 40 expected goals. He scored 47. Austin Matthews finished with 50 expected goals. He scored 69.
Nice.
Phil Forsberg finished with about 38 expected goals. He finished with 48. So these are guys who we think of as the great goal scorers at the NHL level. And they consistently beat their expected goal totals by somewhere between 5 and 20, depending upon the season. Whereas Owen gets you like an extra 2 or 3 a year, which ain't bad. It's not like he's a bad finisher. It's just he's not a great finisher. And people look at the true goal scorers, the guys who shoot the puck about as often as Owen Tippett does. And they see guys who are scoring 45, 50 goals a year. Owen Tippett, it's not that he's a bad finisher. It's just that he's not a great finisher.
So I think the thing that stood out to me there was when you look at where he shoots from. Now, we've seen him on the rush finish around the net a little bit more. Yeah. He's been better at that. Yeah. Deking, actual. But for the most part, even whether he's on the rush, off the cycle, whatever it is, he's trying to wire that shot. And pretty hard to beat goalies clean with a shot in the NHL.
And he does it.
And he does it.
Yeah.
But he probably could stand to, you said he doesn't play big. And I don't need him to be a prototypical power forward. No. He's never going to be Wayne Simmons. Yeah. But when I see a guy who's 6'1", 6'2", 210, 215, use that size to get your ass to the middle of the ice a little bit more.
I would agree.
Take your shot, not from the top of the circle, but from the hashes. Stuff like that. Is that a valid criticism?
I think that is a valid criticism. I think the Flyers even recognize it. If you remember, it was less a focus this season, but the previous season, his first full season in Philly, I remember the final 2 months of, this would have been the 2022-2023 season. This was the first Torts year. Final 2 months of that season, John Tortorella on a daily basis was telling Tippett and then speaking to the media about it that Tippett needs to play like a power forward, needs to drive the net. And there would be times after games where Owen Tippett would drive the net on a play. He would take the puck to the net. He wouldn't necessarily score, but he would take the puck to the net on a play. And I would ask John Tortorella after the game, like, is that what you're looking for from Owen? And he would smile. I'd be like, that's exactly what I'm looking for from Owen Tippett. So the Flyers know. They know that Tippett could take a big step forward from a goal scoring standpoint if he had a little bit more of a net focus game. And I think he definitely does it more than he did it when he got here. He does take the puck to the net more. He's had some really good goals that way. He gets to the slot more often. But he still probably does play a little bit too much of a perimeter game if he wants to be a 40 to 45 goal scorer. If he wants to get those garbage goals, he's going to have to go to the net a little bit more. And he has the frame and the physicality to do it. He just doesn't do it as often as maybe he could. And that would be a way for him to, because really what we're talking about here with these myths and what we're talking about in terms of his flaws, we're talking about ways for Owen Tippett to go from being a 30-goal scorer on a yearly basis or a 30-ish goal scorer because he hasn't hit that threshold yet. But to go from that plateau and just go up just a bit more, go up to 35 a year, go up to 40 a year. We're not asking him to be a 60-goal scorer a year. Like, if he was going to be that, we'd have seen it by now. But I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility that with a few tweaks, a few improvements here and there, he could be a 40-goal scorer. And that is one, getting to the net more, playing a little bit less on the perimeter, a little bit more in the slot and into the crease area that could get him to that point.
Having a distributor on the power play obviously would help.
It would, to be sure.
But I've never seen him. I've seen him take a few. I'm not going to say never. He is more of a carry the puck, find my spot, and shoot guy. Maybe not the most adept one-timer option.
True.
It just feels like, man, if he could stand in that OV spot on his off wing and rip shots on the power play, or find a spot for him where he's comfortable,
right,
you would be able to add a few more goals to that total, get him comfortable where, yeah, all right, his shooting percentage is under 10%. You'd like to see it closer to 15. One place where he's just a little more comfortable, where he can be more efficient in the shots he does get on net.
No, there are options for him on the power play. I mean, the two options that I would love for him to flourish in one of the two, because I think he could flourish in both in theory based on his skill set. The one is the one you mentioned, which is on the off wing, blasting away. The problem is that right now they don't have a pure playmaker who can get him the puck regularly. Like, he can't do what Voracek did, where Voracek and Giroux would just flip the puck across the slot constantly because they were both incredible passers. Tippett is not an incredible passer. If he's going to be in that spot, he has to be in that spot as a pure shooter. And if he's going to be in that spot as a pure shooter, kind of needs a pure playmaker on the other side to get him the puck. They don't really have that. I don't even know if they have that with Michkov. Not because I don't think he's a really good passer, because he can be. It's just I kind of want him focused more on scoring.
I want him closer to the net too.
I want him focused more on scoring. Or at least he could be on that other side. He could be on that right side flank if Tippett's on the left. But I don't want Michkov's job to be feeding Owen Tippett. I want Michkov's job to be crashing the net and creating and, being that hybrid goal scorer passer where he's passing because teams are selling out to prevent him from shooting, and then he can find really good angles to pass and find people open. That's what I want for Tippett. So Tippett, number one, if he could find a way to make it work as that offside one-time option, shooting option. Number two, and this would be potentially a way maybe if he could flourish in the spot, in the bumper. Because you could envision a scenario where, he's taking shots in the bumper. Scott Hartnell thrived there, scored a lot of goals there. And he has the size where if you're a really good bumper option, what you have the ability to do is you can then crash the net and score some garbage goals when things get greasy down there, the puck gets loose, because you're not that far from the crease area. It takes one or two strides and boom, you're there. And if you see a loose puck, you poke it in. You get 3 or 4 of those goals per year, suddenly we're talking about a 35-goal score.
And if they go with the typical setup, not the one I want, but the typical, like, puck goes behind the net, your power forward in front of the net now suddenly has to be that down low guy. You need to then crash down. So you fill in behind him.
Right.
Like, that's where you can, from that spot, get those net front goals.
And he has the size and the strength where if he crashes down, he's not going to get bullied out of the way if he comes with purpose.
And that gets us to what myth number 2. Like, this is how he could finish more. This is how he could create more chances. Myth number 1, like, all right, create more chances so then you'll just finish more.
This is probably the most
number
prevalent
2
myth
is the most prevalent.
Is that he misses the net
He just misses the net a ton. And he does raw totals,
he does.
Miss the net a lot. But considering how much he shoots, his conversion rate of shots on net versus shot attempts is pretty good.
He is about middle of the road. And when I say accuracy percentage, what I'm looking at is the percentage of shots on goal versus total attempts. 53.1% is not great, but it's not terrible. This year, it ranked 224th out of 414 NHL forwards. That is pretty much smack in the middle of NHL forwards. That doesn't mean he couldn't get better at it. It would be great if he was in the top 100. because that's more opportunities for the goalie to deal with a high-quality shot. It would be great if he became a more accurate shooter. It is not accurate to say, pun intended, that he is an inaccurate shooter. He is a middle-of-the-road shooter. The main two reasons why this has become an accepted, if mistaken, truism in Flyer circles. Number one is, as you mentioned, shoots the puck a ton. He shot the puck a lot last year. So if you shoot the puck a lot, you're going to miss the net a lot. It's the same idea of, if you, what's the turnovers thing? It's like, well, yeah, Jake Voracek turned the puck over a lot because he had the puck all the time.
Because it was his job to create the entry.
Yeah.
So, like, every time he didn't do that, it was a turnover. Also, guys don't get credited for turnovers when they dump the puck in, which is fucking insane to me. But anyway, it's a totally different conversation. Yeah, he shoots a ton. You are going to miss. And it's like, well, why doesn't he? Here's the thing. What else do we kill guys for? When the goalie doesn't have to move and you hit him square in the chest. That is not the job of especially a dude who's trying to be at least a sniper. He's not trying to hit the goalie square in the chest. He is trying to beat the goalie clean, picking a corner, hitting the 5-hole, whatever it is. That's hard to do.
It is. No, you're gonna miss some shots because you're trying to beat the goalie and put it in a spot where the goalie isn't. And goalies are real good, so they don't leave a lot of spaces to shoot.
And they're all
at.
6'6" now.
Yeah, they're all friggin' huge. Yeah. But that's number one, that he just shoots a lot, so he's gonna miss a lot. That's just the nature of being a volume shooter. The second reason, though, and I think this is another big part of it, at the start of last season, he did, objectively speaking, miss the net a lot. And it's real. Once you have that perception of a guy, it's hard to break it. In the first, I looked at the first 7 games of last season, he took 41 shot attempts, hit the net just 18 times, which was a 44% accuracy rate. That would have been way down. If he would have held that all year, that would have been way down at the bottom. It was a real problem. I remember having conversations with multiple people, both who cover the team and people who work for the team, being like, what the hell? Why is he missing all these shots? And
it was legitimately bad.
It was bad. And it was a problem. He addressed it. But the thing is that once you have it in your head that Owen Tippett misses all the shots, then if he's shooting a ton, he's still missing shots, but he's hitting a lot of shots too. Every shot he misses then sticks in your crowd. It's like, oh, there he goes again. There's Tippett, Mr. Inaccurate. And I think that's why it became a thing.
Wasn't it a thing with his sticks? Was it the Konechny stick thing? Was that the missing?
I do vaguely remember that being a thing. I also think people obsess too much over the stick thing. Maybe it's something I don't care about that much because I don't play hockey anymore. But that's something where I will say this, maybe there clearly is a market for hockey nerds who love to talk about equipment. I am never going to give that to you. I find equipment to be the most boring thing in the world. But there are a lot of people who like goalie people especially are obsessed with gloves and pads and what company are they using? And oh my God, I get that that's a thing. I'm never going to care about
the equipment being cool is why 75% of goalies become goalies. But I just remember it was.
I apologize to the equipment nerds. That's just never going to be.
He started using Konechny sticks, I think, and then suddenly he was scoring a ton.
And then he went back to his sticks, and then it was still fine.
It was still okay. Yeah. But I'd say it's only a thing to me because, okay, that's just an excuse. But I remember at the same time, Alex Ovechkin, whatever stick company he uses, they discontinued whatever his model was. Mm-hmm. I was like, really? You're a stick company that makes the greatest goal scorer's stick, and
I would think people would want to buy that.
For whatever reason, they discontinued that model, and it took them to the time he started scoring, and they found an exact same basic thing, and then all of a sudden it was good. So I don't know. I was never good enough to for the stick to matter. It was,
I think that was my thing too.
I could have used Wayne Gretzky's stick, and it was it doesn't matter, man. Yeah. You're not good, so it never mattered to me.
Same.
But maybe somebody with that sort of shot, and I'm not going to compare Ovechkin to Owen Tippett, but they have the same job. It's to score goals. Yeah. Maybe that matters so much, but it was just a thing. But the missing the net early in the year was a legitimate problem, and like you said, once you identify that as a problem, you never shake that. Like, he could shoot 50% next year, and people will be like, what about the other 50?
Yeah, exactly. No, once the perception is there, then it's 6 because, again, as a volume shooter, he's going to miss the net a lot because he just shoots a lot. And then every time you see him miss the net, here he goes again. So that's why these types of columns and these types of shows are important, because it's just a reminder that, like, look, Tippett could get better at being accurate. He's middle of the road right now, but he's not bad.
And when I say, like, myth number 1 and number 2 are related, it's to me like he's going to miss the net because he's going to shoot 400 times this year probably. I need him on the shots he does get on net to convert at a higher rate. Like, he's going to miss. He's maybe missing less would be great because then the goalie could just, like, fuck up, and that's cool. But I need him to shoot above 10%. Like, what was he, 9.7 or something last year?
But again,
I need him at 12 or 13%.
But that's the thing, and this goes back to, as you said, these two are linked. Goes back to myth number 1. It's not that he's shooting at a low percentage because he's not finishing on chances. He has more actual goals than expected goals.
Shots.
It's because he's taking distance shots.
Yes.
And if you want him to have a higher shooting percentage, either he's going to have to become, like, the best distance shooter ever, or he's going to have to shoot more in close where the percentage of likelihood of him scoring is higher.
Myth number 3 is that Owen Tippett lacks hockey IQ.
This is the toughest one to disprove because it is very subjective.
And I think it's the one that maybe sticks because we've already said, like, size, shot, skating. He's got the tools. Yeah. And when you see a guy get by on tools and maybe you think there's more if he put it all together, it's like, oh, well, then he just must be dumb.
Right.
And I don't mean like he's an actual dumb. I don't know him. But, like,
he's not dumb.
That's the thought process. It's like, oh, well, then he just doesn't know what the hell he's doing out there, and he has an awesome shot, and he's super fast, and he's just making the most of that without knowing what to do, actually.
And I think it is true. Like, I would never use the word cerebral to describe Owen Tippett's game. Like, I would use that to describe Sean Couturier's game.
Yeah.
I would use that to describe Noah Cates' game. Hell, I might even use that to describe Matvei Michkov's game, especially in the offensive zone. It is a very intelligent game where he just seems to see things before anybody else.
Problem solver is the word that comes up so much.
Yeah, I like that. I like that a lot. I would never use that to describe Owen Tippett. Owen Tippett has a power game. He plays the game because he is just bigger and faster than most people, and he takes advantage of that. However, I don't think it's fair to say that his hockey IQ is bad. It's just not great. And the stat I put up here, and again, you could make the case that, oh, maybe he's doing this entirely by his physical tools. But the last 2 seasons, and this is one of the reasons why guys like, I'd go back to that podcast, like Ryan Lambert, and who was the other person on that pod?
It's DGB.
Why they liked the Tippett contract. Owen Tippett grades out real well by advanced stats. Not elite, not super high end. We're not talking about him in the 95th percentile, but last 2 seasons, he's graded out the exact same way. 76th percentile if we're talking about his impact on the team's expected goal differential. The Flyers drive play significantly better with Owen Tippett on the ice. That is his impact. If he was truly a dumb hockey player, and I've watched dumb hockey players. We talked about one on Friday by the name of Zach Ronaldo. I've watched really stupid hockey players. Owen Tippett is not a dumb hockey player. He's just not.
Why is Zach Ronaldo got to be catching strays
because he's
today?
The one I think of when I think of the platonic ideal of a dumb hockey player who thought about 0 things other than me see man, me hit man. Like that was Ronaldo. He was laser focused on hitting. That's all he did.
He was
not an intelligent hockey player.
I get it. I know. Obviously that is not Owen Tippett's sole driving thing. Yeah. Honestly, I think he should probably hit a couple more people, but just a couple. I'm not saying he needs to be Zach Ronaldo, but maybe just a little bit. It would probably help the forecheck. Cool. He's very fast. It would probably help the forecheck. You make the point. Smart play. Dumb players don't drive the play at the rate that he does.
Right.
I always think that, like, obviously we're not just using raw Corsi or anything. Like, you're using expected goals.
Yeah, and we're evaluating the impact.
Yeah, like, so it's not just, well, he shoots a ton, so obviously the numbers are skewed in his way. There's a reason he shoots a ton. It's because they're in the offensive zone when he has the puck. Yeah. Like, you wouldn't have the opportunity if he was just a dummy out there firing away.
Yeah.
the puck would go down the other way, and then you'd be stuck there. Yeah. I get where you're coming from there. But I do think a lot, like you talk about what the game he plays is, and it's like, I used problem solver a second ago. Hey, there's a loose puck coming out to center. 2 defenders are converging on it. Well, I'm faster than them. Fuck them. And you very much need that on your team. But, like, again, it's not the smartest,
It's not.
Luckily, he can win the race.
Yeah, exactly. It's not like another guy who ultimately his career was, let's say, held back by the fact that he had legitimately low hockey IQ. Phil Myers. Phil Myers did not think the game at a high enough level. Phil Myers had all the tools. He was huge. He could skate. He could shoot. He had all the physical ability. He did not think the game at a high enough level. And he is a guy who, because he didn't think the game at a high enough level, he's a quad A player. He ultimately turned out to be a guy who's going to bounce up and down between the NHL and the AHL probably for the rest of his career, unfortunately. Owen Tippett is nowhere near on that Phil Myers level. Owen Tippett thinks the game not at an elite level. He probably thinks the game at like a slightly above average level, which, again, there's a kernel of truth to the criticism. But it's not like he lacks hockey IQ. If he lacked hockey IQ, the Flyers would be getting crushed when he was on the ice, and they don't. If you want to test your hockey IQ, I suggest you do it with our friends at Bet365 Sportsbook. That's right. Bet365 has 90 million users worldwide, live streams 780,000 events each year. And the thing I love about it, I just think this is so cool, man. Early payout offers across the NBA, NFL, NHL, and Major League Baseball. Live, they pioneered live in-game betting, and now they've made it so that you get paid when, even if you were right for a minute, and you turn out to be wrong, it doesn't matter, because in the NHL, for instance, you get your early payout if you bet money line on a team or you have a team in a parlay. The second they go up by 3 goals, you get your cash, or it gets marked as a win in the parlay. That's right. You don't even have to win the whole game. The second they go up 3 goals, boom, it's marked a winner. It's pretty insane going on at Bet365. You can bet across 78 different sports with the widest range of games and markets available for in-game betting. I do my betting at Bet365. I think you'll love it. And at Bet365, we don't worry about ordinary because we don't do ordinary. We believe every sport should be epic. Right now, new customers can get $150 in bonus bets when you bet just $5. Use the code PHLY365 to sign up. Deposit $10 and claim your offer. All sorts of boosts as well. You got to check the homepage every day because they have over 10,000 boosts every month. Get a little bit more bang for your buck at Bet365. And like I said, you get your straight bets paid or parlay selections marked as winner when your team goes up with a 3-goal lead in the NHL. And it's across the 4 major sports. You can get early payouts. Same game parlays allow you to combine popular markets, all that stuff that you've come to expect from your sports betting partner, plus the never ordinary action at Bet365. So download the Bet365 app, use code PHLY when you sign up, and check out our boosts to see why it's never ordinary at Bet365. Must be 21 or older and physically located in Pennsylvania. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem and wants help, call or text 1-800-GAMBLER. Before we get back to the show, talking to you right now about this Owen Tippett season review. Where can you get it? The only place you can get it is on allphly.com and by becoming a diehard at PHLY. So many benefits. You get the premium content from the man right next to me, Charlie O'Connor, as well as our all-star roster of writers here across all the sports at all PHLY. You also get access to the Discord. What else? Discounts on merch and events. Yep. You get a free shirt when you sign up. Sure do.
We're going to have all sorts of fun stuff coming up for our diehards this season. As I've told you, I think we're going to be able to take calls on postgame this year. Guess who's going to get to call in? Diehards, if you want to be a member of the post-game regulars. I know that was a lot of fun back at the old place Charlie and I used to work, but we're bringing it here with the post-game callers, and you're going to get to do it by becoming a diehard at allphly.com. All sorts of benefits. You're going to want to check it out. Sign up, damn it. All right. let's get through the rest of these myths, Charlie. We can always talk about this again tomorrow.
Sure could.
That's the beauty of the summer.
We got 2 more. I think we can get through
we got
these.
plenty of time.
Yeah, I think so.
Myth number 4. Number 3 was the hockey IQ. Number 4 is Tippett is abnormally streaky, and I feel like
this is where you get to my favorite. All goal scorers are streaky. They're all streaky.
They're all streaky. Now, yes, the best, their streaks are longer and their cold streaks are shorter.
Because they're the best.
Because that's why they score 69 goals instead of 28. Yeah. But
and I know
Wayne Simmons, the number was 7, man. He would have a 7-game goalless drought, and I wish I was betting. I wish in-app betting was a thing back then, because I would have bet Wayne Simmons and cleaned up once every twice a month. It would have been the easiest thing in the world. They're all streaky. Yeah, it would be nice if he just became a 50-goal scorer and his streaks were way shorter. His cold streaks were shorter. But you look at his month-to-month totals, and yeah, there's a big month in there in January, a big month in there in March. But for the most part, he's doing exactly what he's supposed to do.
I think the reason why this is a thing, number one, it's because all goal scorers are streaky. They just are. And if you want to rip on a goal scorer, you're just oh, he's streaky. I know this is diminished, not prime version of Alex Ovechkin, but Alex Ovechkin, didn't score at all for the first, 55 games of the season.
And then he finished with 30 goals.
He scored 30 because he got on a streak. And all goal scorers are streaky, even the best goal scorer of all time, both from an adjusted standpoint and hopefully soon to be from a raw goal total standpoint. Best goal scorer of all time, he's also streaky. So there's that. But there's also the fact that with Tippett in particular, the reason why this is a sticky myth is because Tippett looks streaky by the eye test, in the sense that when he's playing well, it's not just that he's scoring. It's that he looks like the best player on the ice for a week. For 4 or 5 straight games, you're Owen Tippett looks like a fucking superstar.
Yeah.
And then he doesn't for 2 weeks. He just looks like a guy. It's not that he's actively bad. It's not that he is dragging the team down. It's just that he just looks like your regular, decent top sixer.
He might even pop one in that time.
Yeah, maybe.
But I really do think there's something to the
You see glimpses of
test.
Oh my God.
He's on a fucking breakaway doing a spinorama backhand, top shelf. This guy's the limit.
Yeah.
And then 2 weeks go by and you're I don't know. He played.
Yeah.
He didn't kill us.
Yeah.
But at no point was I he's our star. We're good.
Yeah. He will give you 3 to 4 game, week-long stretches where you think this is when he's taking the leap. And then he regresses back to just being good. And I think that's where this comes from. It's partially born of the fact that goal scorers get streaky. They score in bunches. That's just what they do. But it's also born by frustration at the fact that Tippett hasn't taken that leap into stardom, that you watch him during his streaks and you say, man, this guy, how does he not score 40 goals a year?
You look at him, it is kind of crazy. And that's what gets us to myth number 5. Tippett's scoring potential is overrated. He's had a season of 27. He followed it up with a season of 28. But if he was going to be a 35, 45 goal scorer, he would have shown it by now. He simply hasn't. Now, that's valid. But as we've said, this is good. Every offensive play, if you're a top 6 forward or a potential top 6 forward on this team, this is going to be the running theme.
Yep.
Somebody just needs to fucking convert on the power play. Look at these numbers. All of these numbers are basically all 5-on-5 because nobody scores in the power play.
Yeah. I'm going to read this.
The leading goal scorer, I think, had 5 goals in the power play this year.
It's wild. I'm going to read this off because obviously not everyone is watching on YouTube. We have some people listening, not live, but on podcast.
Thousands of people, in fact.
The myth is that his scoring potential is overrated because you look at his numbers he hasn't even scored 30 goals. He hasn't even hit 60 points. He's not even that good. The reality is Tippett did take a legitimate step this past season at scoring a 5-on-5. He established himself this year at 5-on-5 as a first-line caliber scorer at 5-on-5. The problem, on the power play, he, like almost everyone on the team, is god-awful. Here's the stat.
It's unbelievable.
So at 5-on-5, his points per 60 rate, 2.31. That is easily first-line caliber. We're talking, I believe, if I remember correctly, it ranked him somewhere in like the 45th range out of NHL forwards. If you go by the 32 teams, 3 forwards on a line, 96 in theory, first-line caliber forwards. He's in the middle, even bordering on the upper end of that at 5-on-5 this past year as a scorer. First-line caliber forward. 2.31 points per 60. On the power play, when they have one more guy, 2.33. It is basically identical. He's basically the same scorer at 5-on-5 as he is on the power play when they have one more guy. That is horrible. He ranked 244th out of 275 players on the power play. I'm not even just looking at forwards anymore. I'm looking at players. And I bet about 8 of them were Flyers that he was better than.
Yeah, I would think so, simply because Owen Tippett, 5 power play goals plus 3 assists, 8 power play points is better than everyone except Konechny had 9 power play points, and I believe Morgan Frost had, 11.
Okay, so he got double digits. Good job, Morgan.
Yeah.
Well done.
Morgan Frost led the team with 11. But this is what we're talking about.
You just said Sam Reinhart had what?
27 power play goals.
Just himself.
Goals.
Yeah.
Not points. Goals.
You want to know why the scoring numbers are so much higher than they used to be? Travis Jost talked about this last week in a column for TSN. But you want to know why Connor McDavid's scoring 140 points a year? It's because the really good power plays operate at near 30%. Yeah. The Flyers were at 12. 12.
20 used to be nice, they're at 20. Now it's just get to 20. 20 is baseline here. 1 out of 5.
That'd be awesome.
1 out of 5. We're talking Fulton Reed numbers here. But it's funny because he is kind of Fulton Reed. Yeah. But the accuracy.
We just destroyed that myth, William.
We did. Before we go any further, I do want to thank our diehards. Listen, I told you to sign up before, but the ones who have, the ones who are, maybe their renewals are coming up, we very much appreciate all of our diehards here at All PHLY. We could not do what we do without you. So keep up the good work. We need you.
So I guess
thank you, diehards.
We're coming up on the end. So what are your final thoughts on Owen Tippett? Where's your head at after we went through this hour-long discussion of his strengths, why we're excited about him, why we think the contract is good, but also, I wouldn't even call it nitpicking, but
these are the things,
picking out the continued flaws of his game that are keeping him from being the 40-plus a year goal guy that we think he has the talent to be.
Yeah, to me, it all kind of becomes the play to your size thing. And I don't mean it JVR's a little bitch. We need to trade him for Luke Shen. I'm not saying that because he's already really good. I want him on the team. Love him. Like the contract. It's just if he's going to be better, he needs to use his size, 1, to get into the forecheck, be the first one to the puck, and then use that really strong puck carrying ability and speed, and then his size to get to the places where goals are scored more efficiently. This guy, there is absolutely no reason other than not coming through on one of these 5 things he needs to improve on that he doesn't score 35 goals this year. The power play has to be better. But I'm not even thinking about the power play, although it would be nice if it was better. Just if you were getting your ass to the net more often, creating a little bit more havoc, you would score 35 no problem. That's what I see in this guy. And I think he has it. It's not as if he lacks any tools. I always just think back to John Tortorella that first year in the preseason, yelling at him, mic'd up. I don't know what you are. Show me what you are. I think he's shown us 80% of what he is, and it's pretty damn good. There's just a little more there.
I think my view of Owen Tippett is that I believe that even if he doesn't get any better from a true talent standpoint, he will probably be a 30 to 35 goal a year guy, a 30-60, let's say, 30 goal, 60 point, because team around him is going to get better. I would hope the power play can't stay this bad, that Matvei Michkov is at least going to help boost it a little bit. And if the power play is this bad again with Matvei Michkov for one more year that they will have a new person coaching it, because I don't know how you could justify keeping Rocky Thompson after another horrific power play year. I just don't know how you could do it. So I have to believe that even if Tippett doesn't get any better at all, that just based on his environment, he's going to score more because he's going to have more help, and we're probably going to see a true talent 33, 34 goal scorer a year, Owen Tippett. What's exciting, though, is the idea of what if the environment gets better and he addresses 2 or 3 of these issues? Then we're cooking with gas.
Yeah, then he is. And, like, production-wise, he's already close. But we keep talking, like, if a few guys take the step to Konechny's level, where you aren't, like, a star of the NHL, but you can find yourself in an all-star game in a good year or something, like you're that next tier down. He is a guy very much primed to make at least that step. He's got the tools.
Yeah, sure does.
We'll talk maybe a little bit more about Owen Tippett tomorrow because there's a few things I want to get to, but let's hit those super chats. Let's see. We have 3. It looks like the first one from Adam S. Does Owen Tippett have the reddest hair in NHL history?
He is a full-on ginger.
That's like... He is. I don't even know if you can say ginger. It's like fucking red.
Well, it's like the... You remember the old episode of South Park?
Yeah, like you're a ginger.
You're
dude.
a daywalker.
Yeah, like, that dude is red.
Yeah,
like you have the like orangey, light brown. Like that's what a redhead. His is legit, like fire engine red almost.
No, Owen Tippett. I cannot say with certainty that he has the reddest hair. I'm sure there's probably at least someone who, if we go back through the annals of NHL history, who was more of a redhead than Owen Tippett. But in comparison to like guys like Claude Giroux and Jake Voracek, where like, yeah, they had reddish hair. They had like me red hair. Where like, yeah, when I have a beard, it's more obvious like, that it's red.
Bobby Clark, it looks like looks like he has black hair compared to Owen Tippett.
There are a lot of guys on those mid 2010s Flyer teams that we called redheads, but really were ginger beards.
Yeah,
they were ginger beards.
They just had the
with
brown
hair.
Yeah,
but the beard was red because they did have like brownish red hair. Owen Tippett straight up has red hair.
Red hair. Yeah. It is funny. This team, man, redheads, they love them.
They love it.
Let's go to JH. I love G, but very happy to have a younger ginger. Yeah, and
you always got to have at least one.
I saw this article. On where was it? Sportsnet today. The 13 active NHLers who are Hall of Fame locks, and Giroux wasn't on it. And I want to just get into that maybe a little bit tomorrow if we have time.
I don't think he should be viewed as a Hall of Fame lock.
Yeah, and we'll get into that maybe.
I am as big of a Claude Giroux defender as you're going to see, and I would not argue that he deserves to be a first ballot Hall of Famer.
Yeah.
That's not true.
But we'll get into that list maybe a little bit tomorrow if there's time. And the last one from Linden49. Can you do a Travis Sanheim show in the future?
Well, I think it just comes down to how many of these season reviews I get through. Because what we're doing is when we have these focused on one player shows, it's coming after I do a season review. Yeah. I believe I have Sanheim's review tentatively scheduled for like early September. So hopefully I get to it. There are other players who I think are a bit more interesting in terms of whether they had a more interesting season, whether they're younger, so we're not sure what they're going to ultimately become, that I want to get to first. But Sanheim's on the list.
I'm interested, like, just thinking, do I have any opinions left on Travis Sanheim? Like, or has Travis Sanheim just kind of been like, all right, this is what I am? Like, now, I guess the thing is following it up. Right. Like, he's never had 2 good years in a row, so that's kind of where we have to go.
I've written about Travis Sanheim so many times.
Yeah, I mean, it lines up perfectly with your career.
Yeah, I do like, this.
Travis Sanheim
every year. Yeah, and I'm always writing about Travis
Sanheim is the player, like
him and Couturier. Really.
Yeah, Coots. I guess the timeline doesn't line up, but like his breakout does. Yeah. But like Sanheim is like when you started through.
Yeah, I joined Broad Street Hockey, I guess, in like the end of the 2013, 2014 season. And then 2014 was the draft.
That's the draft. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. And that is all the time we have for you on PHLY today. Thank you all for listening. Thank you for hanging out. If you haven't already, Got to hit that subscribe button. Follow us right here on YouTube. Make sure you hit that reminder bell. Never miss a live show. We'll be back tomorrow and the whole rest of the week at 1 p.m. So make sure you're here to join us live or follow the podcast. Listen to it whenever. Just search PHLY Flyers wherever you get your podcasts and follow us on Twitter at PHLY_Flyers. All right. My name's Bill Matz. That's Charlie O'Connor. Until tomorrow, you stay loose and sexy, Philly.
We all silly like the mayor.